So, Indian schools typically always focus on getting that 99% so we can get admission in colleges and, we can hopefully strive to get admission in the best colleges in India. And all the attention is towards academics. We all know that, and we are all trying to, as parents, have two children. We're trying to change that. We don't want to be local, we want to be global, we want kids to be able to be global citizens. And their creativity is a big part of it. So should we start with you? And what do you think are the key points that you would like to drive home, and how do you feel we can foster creativity?
Sure, Latika. First of all, as something that you said, we are a nation which clearly has been obsessed with numbers generally. But at times I think we also need to ask ourselves what these numbers actually mean. Are all the most meritorious students of our system the most successful in life? So we need to introspect. When I can share our experiences of what we are trying to do. If we see, like when we thought of setting up a school and studying the model together, that how should it be, our first thing was who are the people, or who are the boys and girls that we are going to educate. Now this is a generation which is a post-internet generation. Well, I'm sure there would be people here also who are post-internet, but at least I'm definitely not a post-internet person. I'm much older than that. So how do you teach them? Can we imagine ourselves, as I see my son and daughter, can we imagine ourselves that during our times we prepared for our physics exam the next day with the iPod on and with a Facebook right there, my BlackBerry, I'm doing the BBM also, the television is running and I'm also doing my lessons, And as parents, we also get paranoid that, are you studying or doing, or are you seriously studying or probably having fun? But this is a generation which wants to have fun while doing work. They do all this and they still get good grades. So what does that mean? This is the generation which has adapted to the technological or the IT revolution. So how do you keep their interest alive in a classroom situation? For 40 minutes, how do you hold their attention span? Would the traditional strategies work? Or would you have to change your systems to keep that interest alive? So, these are the kind of things which we have to ask ourselves and then change the ways the education is transacted in a day-to-day learning environment to make it more interesting, more relevant, and to have these kids, naturally join in the process of learning. We can't impose education on anybody else. And that's probably something that we try to do. And we're not the only one who are doing that. There's several schools in India, there's several schools in the world which are trying to do that. But that really boils down to a big mind shift in the teachers. Should the education be teaching based or should it be learning based? So I guess that's where the answer is for the entire.
So if your kid would like to ask you to let him be and let him foster his own creativity, perhaps drop out of high school, not go to college, what would you say?
Go for it. I think it's easy to say, I know, but it's difficult to do. Now, my perspective on this is not so much from the experience of running a school, but from the public policy, education policy perspective. So at the Center for Civil Society, we are mostly focused on sort of system policies and how ecosystem of education actually works. So from, I think, that point of view, not so much from the personal point of view, my sort of take is that it's very clear to anyone who thinks about this subject. The 21st century education is going to be about learning anywhere, anytime. Right? It's not going to be in a building called school. It's not going to be in front of a person called teacher. What somebody said about here, sage on a dais or something like that. Right? So it's going to be peer learning. Is going to be sort of very decentralized, disruptive education. Right? And I think that is certainly the future. And I think Khan Academy is popular, but there are lots of many more models of this kind, even today in India. Sal Khan talks about how to flip the classroom. What you do in a classroom should be done at home, listening to lectures, and what you do at home, which is the homework, so-called should be done in the class, where you have peer-to-peer learning, where your teacher as a facilitator, not so much as a sort of lecturer. Right? So I think that is pretty commonly understood. My worry from the sort of Indian policy point of view is that unfortunately in India we are moving in the exactly opposite direction. Right? So the old assembly line model of education is we are reinstituting in a sense through the Right to Education Act. I know we had all the policymakers here at the conference for last 2 days, right? Pallam Raju spoke, and then of course Mr. Dr. Aluwalia this morning. They all talked about innovation, excellence, out-of-the-box thinking. But if you look at the public policy that they are framing and enforcing, moves exactly in the opposite direction, right? So Right to Education Act, for example, requires that your school must be of a particular size, the classroom must be of this size, the teacher must be paid government salaries, right? So all the inputs, yeah. So the whole model is basically based on standardization and uniformity. And that's how they want to assure excellence or quality, which is seems very surprising that given what they themselves speak in public forum, that this is actually what's going to deliver excellence or quality in India. I think we not need disruptive model, but I think we need very destructive model of education in India to break these boundaries and create the environment for creativity and learning in the country.
Dr. Saini, you're probably the most experienced through you talk to students, parents, teachers. You want all your students to get admission in fantastic colleges and universities and get somewhere in life. So after the school session, a kid comes back, the schoolwork, there's exam pressure, there's that pressure to just perform and be excellent in academics. So where is the time to create, to let creativity be?
Thank you very much. First of all, we must understand first thing first, that is the topic, creativity and learning. Both the words are very, very important for the teacher and for the student also. Teacher must understand what type of caliber or attitude or interest of the child. That is the first and foremost duty of the teacher and the parent also. And what type of learning we want to impart and what is our ultimate aim. So basically the aim of education or learning is to create or to produce or to nurture the child who is physically fit, mentally alert or intellectually sound, and socially he should be or she should be accepted in the society. And spiritually also, he must feel that there is something which is controlling him. So child interest is most important, but now the situation has changed. The role of teacher is important but not so important because there are so many channels from where the child can get the information. But there is a lot of difference between information and knowledge or wisdom. It is the duty of the teacher and the parent both to understand the child and to listen to the child. Then we can impart the learning or education and we can teach in the right perspective. So understanding between the two and the education system. So 3 or rather 4 most important component or stakeholder of this creativity or learning. First is the child, then the teacher, parent and the school environment. So all must, there should be synchronization of or understanding or coordination or culmination of all the 4 stakeholders so that we can give the best to the child and we can get the best from the child also. So this creativity and learning is go hand in hand. and both are very, very important for teaching and learning profession or this system.
How can you give us your views and opinion on how can we make our kids more interested in the curriculum that we're teaching them? What is your take on the pedagogy now, and how we can improvise in a way, make kids really interested in what we're teaching them? I have two kids, and I know for sure half the things they learn in school, they're like, oh, I will never use it in real life. We'll never use this math, we'll never use this history. How do we make it interesting and learn and make it creative?
One of the things which I do is for living is that I'm a publisher, we do textbooks. And one question which I ask myself is that a class 1 or a class 2 student as of today, why do they have so many textbooks? And a child would do something in science, the child would do something in value education, the child would do something in general knowledge. And then you realize that those are the years where, in my opinion, the child needs two major skills. One is a language skill, a communication skill, and the child needs numeracy. And then the child needs to see what is happening around, and that is how it goes. Unfortunately, what happens is that if you look in, kind of a retrospection and see where you have come in life and at different milestones in terms of your education and career, and then look at the education system you went through, and you find that there are a lot of things which could have been done better. You learned a lot of things which are irrelevant as of today. And you can ask that question yourself, that how creative you are as of today and how much you want to learn yourself. Because you are seeing your part of life at this stage, number one. Number two, as a parent, you see that whatever your children are going in a school and what they are learning, how creative they are. So, after seeing and being associated with education, I feel that, there has to be some kind of a differentiation in terms of curriculum, where we have to revisit again, what are we teaching? Why we are teaching that, when we are teaching that, and how do we educate children in 21st century? Just by saying that CBSE says that I should have a maths lab in my school. Every school goes and puts some charts and some maths lab. Is that what we are fostering creativity? Or are we trying to put a lot of things in that child's plate and not able to kind of, give the child that kind of a freedom or those kind of mediums which they need as of today? There should be technology. As far as they are concerned, there should be some peer learning, there should be some informal learning. I'll just give an example that if you go through a school book and you talk about a Kumbh Mela, a child would go and read what the Kumbh Mela is, and the child would go and just tick that and get a score and come back. But the same child today sees that Kumbh Mela happening on a television screen. The child retains that for life, but if he has just gone and ticked some board and get an exam, he doesn't. So there has to be some real life experiential learning which has to be.